Well, good morning, everybody. It's been a hot minute since I've been on the YouTubes. It's been 5 weeks of hell at work. I switched over to working part-time about 2 years ago now. And like a lot of people, I think I end up working more than when I worked full-time. But anyways, I wanted to catch you guys up on the Ranger. It's getting really close to running, even though we haven't had as much time as I would have liked to have been working on it. I figured I'd better give you guys an update. First off, the stance is looking real good. Pretty happy with that. That's one coil cut out of the front springs and a flip kit on the rear axle. What we're going to go over today is how I did the radiator. Like I said, this thing's real close to ready to run. I just need to kind of finalize my startup tune and touch up a few more things, and we'll be ready to crank this thing up. I need to get the exhaust system done a little bit more though. And no, none of this wiring is finalized. It's just laying in there to run the PCM. So, this is a Be Cool USA made LS swap specific radiator. It's not specific to Rangers, but it's specific to LS swaps. Has the appropriate 1.25 and 1.5 hot cold, has the port built into it for the steam vent, and then of course your overflow. I literally was able to tuck this thing in here and make it fit using the stock Ford Ranger radiator mounts, including the lower rubber cradles, which is pretty cool. I just fabbed up some brackets out of some angle steel and some flat steel, and then I got this nested in the cradle. This is the factory rubber radiator support down here, and then I've got a Phillips screw turned upside down that goes into a divot in the rubber. It kind of locates it a little bit, probably totally unnecessary. This LS swap radiator, I bought this one primarily because of the dimensions, and also because it was one of the few that I could find that already had a mounting structure welded onto it, so I didn't have to get somebody to weld anything to the radiator. These are recycled Ford Ranger engine bolts, M6s, and then I got this put together with steel riv nuts into this flange so that you can zip these in and out without having to use a wrench to hold a nut on the backside or anything like that. This is the factory Ranger radiator bolt and the factory location going into a threaded U-clip. It's basically identical on both sides. Can't really see this side as well, but it's put together exactly the same way. I just barely scalloped out the core support right here so you have a little bit easier access to the radiator cap. If I didn't mention it, the part number for this radiator is 35200. One of the first changes I had to make, if you're new to this channel, I built this engine with F-body accessories. That's the spacing. There's truck spacing, F-body spacing, and then Corvette spacing, which is really close to the engine. One of the first changes I had to make this radiator work was there was no way I could use the OEM thermostat housing, because the port was pointing straight passenger. So converted it to a straight out water neck. This water neck is off of Amazon. Seems to be very well built, China made, of course. I had to switch over to a LS specific Mr. Gasket thermostat to use the straight water neck. When you have this style, the thermostat is part of the water neck, so you can't. This is changed as an assembly. So this is now separate water neck with a thermostat inside of it. These are just some generic 90-degree Gates 1.5-inch radiator hoses. Part number 21794. And this hose, I did the old trick where I just went to O'Reilly's and they let me go in the back room and peruse their whole wall of radiator hoses until I found one that I thought would work. It's not 100% perfect, but it actually fits pretty good. And that hose is 22499. This is 1.5 inch. This is 1.25 inch. I had to use a 1.5 inch like aluminum intercooler coupler with beads on it so that I could make my own S-shape hose. So yes, this is another leak point, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. I could probably, the LS water pumps usually have a extended outlet. I could probably, the bead for this hose is right here, so I could probably trim this hose back up a little bit more and get it to look a little bit better. I'm using an old school Corvette Camaro 4-corner steam vent from the early LS's, and I've got it hooked up right here. This is 1/4 inch hose going to the steam port in the radiator. So now another interesting thing that I did, our overflow, I've got it snaked back through the engine, and I have converted the Factory Ranger degas bottle. This is normally the radiator cap on a Ranger. Now we're using a conventional radiator cap. So I converted this tank to just a standard plain old coolant reservoir recovery tank. So I had to go from 3/4 inch down to 3/8 right here, and then it just snakes around and comes up to here. And this level will just handle itself. This level in the tank will just handle itself as the engine heats up and cools down. I don't even need to pay attention to the min-max. It'll probably just get filled like halfway full and we'll call her good. So before this gets any longer, that's probably where I'm going to leave this video off at. On the next video, I'm probably either going to go over the wiring or how I did the exhaust. Then I got to do a video on the shifter and go on from there. I'm probably going to throw in the first start video somewhere in between, and then there will still be videos coming after that on how to LS swap your Ford Ranger. While we're already here, because I want to get the grill and the headlights put back in this thing, I can't remember. I think this is a Dural transmission cooler. It's not this fancy stack plate design. I just need to keep this thing cool, not building a race car. I've got this mounted in front of the condenser, and I mounted it using P-clamps, rubber P-clamps into steel riv nuts, and it's pretty solid. When we go over the shifter, I'll go over the cooler lines and how we did all that. But yeah, stay tuned for a startup video. Hopefully that'll be in the next, I don't know, few days anyways. This weekend. Yeah, we'll get her running this weekend. Alright, hope to see y'all on that startup video. And like I said, stay tuned for more. There'll be lots of little videos on how we hook things up. I'll see you on the next one.